best in the Midwest. I'm not necessarily sold on that just being a slogan. I want Missouri to be the best. We got a great opportunity to lead this nation from the state of Missouri.
We got a lot of Republican governors across this country, and every one of them is looking at how they can make their state more competitive. So I'm keeping an eye on you, Governor Parson. I know you're working hard to reduce taxes in the great state of Missouri.
He's the right man for the job when it comes to lowering taxes for Missourians.
What you have to try to do is create the kind of environment where you can grow your way to prosperity.
What we're doing on the public policy front in Missouri can lead the way for more opportunity for the next generation.
Now is the time for Missouri to do the job right.
Hello everyone, I'm Stacy Washington. Missouri is taking giant leaps forward when it comes to tax cuts. So much so that Governor Parson sees this as proof that Missouri has what it takes to be the best in the Midwest. In this program, we will talk to the players who are bringing lower tax initiatives to the table. We will touch on the debates surrounding spending and revenue. Governor Parson will give us his take on the future, and other governors will tell us why they're striving to be more like Missouri. Finally, we will speak with national experts to get their take on how Missouri measures up and what the Show Me State can do to keep up the momentum. First, we talk with key state officials about how Missouri was able to reduce income tax for the first time in 100 years. The state adopted its first tax laws in 1917. What began as a 0.5% tax more than 100 years ago eventually topped out at 6%. That's 6% for everyone earning $9,000 or more. To better understand Missouri taxes, we're talking with several key people who played a vital role in reducing income tax. State Senator Andrew Koenig represents the St. Louis area. He led the charge for Missouri tax cuts that passed in 2014.
In 2014, what we did is we lowered the tax from 6% to 5.5%, and actually it's being phased in over 5 years, and the first phase-in was actually this year in 2018. So you'll definitely feel the tax cuts much greater once it's fully phased in.
Missouri Speaker of the House Elijah Haar wrote the 2018 tax reform bill, which ultimately cut income taxes even more. But Speaker Haar also played a vital role cutting taxes as a state representative of Springfield in 2014.
What we did in 2014 was focused almost exclusively on income reduction. One of the things that we did not do at that time was look at a business tax cut reduction. And so we had always said that that was a conversation we wanted to come back to at some point. On top of that, was seeing what these other states were doing. We knew that our income tax reductions were not as far as some other states had gone. We wanted to stay kind of at the tip of the spear as far as economic development.
Help me get a better idea of Missouri's tax brackets. We're talking about a threshold of $9,000.
Yeah, that's right. So we have 11 tax brackets, and so you're at $9,000. You're in the top tax bracket at 6%. And the reason why is because it was first done back in the 30s.
State Senator Bill Eigel represents the St. Charles area and was instrumental in getting both the income tax and business tax reduced in 2018.
Well, if you look at Missouri's income tax code, you can actually be below the federal poverty line and pay the highest rate of tax in the state. I don't think that was the intention of anybody to tax the folks on the lowest end of the income spectrum at the highest rate. And really that points to a broader flaw with income taxes.
The economics of reducing income taxes comes down to Missourians keeping more of their earnings, businesses spending more, and encouraging outside companies to open their businesses in Missouri. So it might come as a surprise to know that there was a lot of resistance to reducing the income tax.
Yeah, there's a tremendous amount of resistance, and you would think it would be a lot easier with the supermajorities that we have. But it's critical for our state to cut the income tax. The income tax is destructive towards economic growth. There's just too many of them that are concerned about cutting a single dollar of revenue out of state government. Also, the education lobby was very much opposed to any kind of reforms to our tax code. And that was also a bit concerning. There's been 11 states to implement new income taxes over the last 50 years. 11 out of 11 lost population, lost gross state product, meaning they produce less stuff in their state, and wages went down relative to the United States as a whole. And so the income tax is absolutely destructive towards economic growth.
What surprised you the most about the process of reducing taxes?
I think one of the biggest things that surprised me is how people view taxes. Within the Capitol, people view taxes as their money, and so any tax cut is seen as giving up some of their money. If you get outside of the Capitol, people remember that those taxes are really the people's money, and reducing taxes is just giving them more of their own money that they can pay or they can spend and invest as they see fit. You know, obviously in our state, we have to fund things like roads and bridges and higher education. And so we want to show them a path forward on how we can let citizens keep more of their own money while simultaneously funding those important core functions.
Well, it surprised me as a guy that likes to keep more of my own money. It surprised me how willing other people were to spend that money before I got a chance to spend it myself. But I think what we have here is a long line of folks that have their own special interests, have their own desires of how they think tax dollars ought to be spent. And given the fact that we already have record amounts of revenue going into Jefferson City, they've had it pretty good these past few years. But when I got elected on a message that folks didn't believe that we needed more government in our lives, that we needed more spending in our lives. The message was they wanted some of that reduced a little bit.
Missouri Attorney General Eric Schmidt was proud to sponsor the first tax cut in Missouri in 100 years when he was a state senator in 2014. We spoke with the state's Attorney General about all this and more in Springfield.
I was surprised at the intensity of the opposition and the idea of allowing people to keep more of their own money. I don't get that. I've never understood that. I just believe that people know better how to spend their money than government does. But we summoned, I think, the courage to move forward on behalf of the people of Missouri. And I think what it's done now is set a trajectory. It's a model for moving forward with continuing to lower that tax burden for individuals and families and small businesses, and that's the right path for Missouri to be headed down. There's still a lot more work to do, but I'm confident that some of the things that we've taken on, including the first tax cut in 100 years, sets us on a different path.
Todd Richardson was a state representative in 2014 and became Speaker of the House in 2015. His message to critics of tax cuts is that Missouri needs to create a situation in which you grow your way into success.
The conversation about tax reform seems to always devolve into a zero-sum game, a choice between investing in our priorities or cutting taxes. And if you look at the experience in other states, if done right, that's not the choice you're really making. But in Jefferson City, so often the conversation gets distilled down to, are you in favor of public education? Are you in favor of tax reform? And I really don't think that's a very honest way to frame the debate. Certainly, there are ways that you could reform taxes and cut taxes that would prevent the state from doing it. But if you do it right and you do it responsibly, there's no reason that you can't have both. People use this line all the time that you can't cut your way to prosperity. The truth is you can't tax your way to prosperity either. What you have to try to do is create the kind of environment where you can grow your way to prosperity.
Dr. Art Laffer is a world-renowned economist and, of course, the man behind the famous Laffer curve. Dr. Laffer was one of the architects behind the President Reagan tax cuts in 1982. After those tax cuts passed, the U.S. economy grew 12% between January of 1983 and June of 1984. He was also one of President Trump's economic advisors during his successful 2016 campaign. Dr. Laffer applauded the efforts of the Missouri legislature in 2014 and emphasized that government spending is taxation.
What a great legislature you had. Now, when that bill was passed, your then Governor Jay Nixon vetoed it. Your legislature was so cool because they passed the bill over his veto. How's that for really understanding what's going on? I mean, governments don't create resources, they redistribute resources. So whenever the government spends, it's taken from someone and given to someone else. It's called economics, math. Whenever you redistribute income, you always reduce total income. That's the theorem. And the limit function of this theorem, which is really cool, is if you were to achieve a total redistribution of income, there will be no income whatsoever. I will stipulate that everyone will come out equal at zero. That is math. It's not ideology, it's not politics and nothing. So all of these people who vote for the redistribution of income have not a clue that what they're doing is voting for poverty. They're voting for a decline in real incomes, and there's no way around the math. That's where it is.
Tax cuts were passed in 2014, but Missourians made their voices heard in the 2016 election, wanting Jefferson City to do even more in order to make Missouri the best in the Midwest.
They should expect more. I think that's why they sent us here back in 2016 when I was elected. There was a lot of frustration. There was the belief that the people that were being elected didn't represent them and had more in mind about the special interest down in Jefferson City than the people back home. Restoring some of the money to the people that sent us there, I think that sends the message that we do have their best interests in mind.
Speaker Haar went to work again in 2018, this time looking to do something big for the Missouri economy, something to disrupt the competition and something to put the Show Me State on the map.
So if you look at the business tax rate, we went from 6.25% down to 4%, which is about a 36% drop in the business tax rate. It also puts us as the #2 lowest state in the country for states that have a business tax. So it's a pretty significant impact on where we stand nationally.
Why is that rate so important?
You know, one of the things about business tax rates is that when you reduce taxes on business, a lot of times they will reinvest that money, whether it be into their workforce through bonuses or raises, or they'll reinvest it into their actual infrastructure, the buildings, the machinery that they use. And so there's an effect where that money actually gets spent back into the local economy multiple different ways and multiple different times.
So how does the tax cut help small businesses?
Well, they don't have to pay as much money to Jefferson City. And that's a big help, because every dollar that's not going down to Jefferson City is a dollar they're investing in their employees, their trained workforce, their capital improvements, their capital expenditures. So they're buying new equipment, they're buying new businesses, they're marketing more, they're advertising more, all the things that a business needs to operate. There's very little that the government can do positively to actually help these small businesses. So by getting out of their way, they're providing the right avenue for them to be successful.
During his time as the state treasurer from 2016 to 2018, Eric Schmidt was looking for ways Missouri could improve its overall economic outlook. He says the way for the state to be the best in the Midwest is to provide unique opportunities for Missourians.
Keeping it simple is really important. Understanding what individuals really want. They want their kids to have a better life, right? The American dream is front and center, I think, and it should be in our policy decisions. So anything that we can do to have more opportunity and more access to a quality education. So we're moving forward as a leader among states as far as allowing people to use their 529 accounts for K through 12 education, and that includes private, religious, and parochial schools now too. Anything that we can do to lower the tax burden on working families and small businesses sets us apart. And so if you do all those things, if you're willing to make the tough decisions and work hard in building coalitions to tackle these problems that exist, Missouri can set itself apart among our other states, not just in the Midwest, but nationally, as a place where innovation is welcome, opportunity is welcome, and that businesses want to come to.
And Attorney General Schmidt also speaks to the importance of giving people more control of how their money is spent. Given the different types of taxes, why is it so important to reduce the income tax?
The idea of earned success, pursuing your dreams, the dignity that comes with work. We want people to be working, and they're being taxed on their income, and that's how states derive a lot of revenue sometimes. But I think allowing people to keep more of what they earn through the sweat of their brow is a really important concept. I think of my dad. My dad works 7 days a week in the midnight shift. So I know firsthand, growing up in a middle-class, blue-collar family, what more take-home pay meant for our family.
Todd Richardson and his family own a farm in southeast Missouri, and the former Speaker of the House talked to us about what the tax cuts mean to the southeast Missouri region.
Well, southeast Missouri is one of the most productive agriculture regions you'll find, not just in the country, but anywhere in the world. And the family farm and agriculture is a huge part of Missouri's economy, and certainly southeast Missouri's economy. So giving these farmers and ranchers the ability to keep a little bit more of what they earn means that they're going to be more productive farmers. And it may mean the difference in some of them staying in business and not.
Richardson says for Missouri to be the best in the Midwest, the state needs to stay on this current path of tax reform in order to gain the upper hand over bordering states.
I think they'll make southeast Missouri more competitive with our neighboring states. There's no question that the tax policy and the relative tax burden makes a difference in where people choose to invest their money. And so part of our goal has been to recognize that we're in a competitive environment, and that if we want to compete, we've got to have policies that are competitive. And so by reducing our income tax burden, by reducing our corporate tax rate, we make Missouri a more attractive place for businesses and for individuals to invest their money.
It might sound as though we are really picking on income tax. Given the many types of taxes Missourians have to pay, there is a reason why reducing the income tax has the most benefits.
You know, every tax is essentially a penalty. And so by penalizing income, that's probably the hardest thing for an individual person to deal with. And so I think if we want to remove a tax or remove a penalty, we want to take it off income first.
So when I look at taxes, I put it in basically 4 buckets. You have excise taxes and fees. You have property taxes, which Missouri has no property taxes. All the property taxes are local. Then you have sales tax, and then you have income tax. And study after study will show you that the income tax is the most destructive towards economic growth. And money and people seek out economic freedom. And so if your state puts up barriers to creating wealth, then that money and those people are going to flee to other states.
There are some things for us to work on, but you look to our neighbors of the east, right? Illinois, we had an event a year ago under the guise of hashtag Don't Be Like Illinois, and that's good public policy advice for pretty much anything. But ultimately, you look at those 2 states. Illinois is moving in a different direction. They're raising taxes. It's harder to start a business. It's harder to have more take-home pay in a state like that. In Missouri, we're moving in a different direction. And so what you see is people are leaving Illinois and they're going other places. And we want Missouri to be a place where businesses and individuals and families, when they're looking for more opportunity, look to Missouri.
You know, there's different ways that economies can handle certain types of taxes. But what I try to look at is what is going to get Missouri growing in terms of population. We're in the bottom third of the United States when it comes to population growth, which means that people don't see a whole lot of reason why they want to come here and start their businesses and raise their families. And I used to have a saying when I was a small business owner, and that is, if you have sales, everything else can be fixed. If you don't have a product that attracts people, then it's going to be hard to survive that. And it's the same in geopolitics. If you have population growth, everything else can be fixed. And what we've done by creating an environment where we're getting away from the income taxes, we're creating the situation where people want to come here. And when you have more population growth and people want to come to your area, they bring new investment capital, they bring new ideas, they bring energy, just like what we've seen here in St. Charles County, which is the fastest growing county in the state of Missouri. We want to apply that statewide, and we want to be up there competing for population, just like Texas, just like Tennessee, just like Nevada. All those good things can happen here, and I think that getting rid of the income tax in particular is the way to get there.
I got a chance to work and to live in Tennessee back in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And actually at that point in time, there was a significant conversation about whether Tennessee's tax policy should look more like Missouri's policy, whether it should include an income tax. Tennessee has not had an income tax in its history. Tennesseans were fortunate that they did not make the decision to impose an income tax. And now you see Tennessee growing at a rate much faster than the state of Missouri.
Tennessee, we have no income tax. We have no unearned income tax. We have no death tax. We don't have any gift tax. We're one of the fastest growing states in the nation. We have one of the best improving public services in the nation. And also, we have the biggest surplus of any state in the nation. But other than that, it's really a rotten state. Why don't you guys just try to be Tennessee?
I wish.
Well,
I wish.
that's what I want to do with Parson is, it's tough. And I'm not underestimating the problem. You've got a problem for tomorrow, and then you've got a problem for 10 years from now. You can never solve 10 years from now problem by doing tomorrow until 10 years are up. Then you'll be in the dumpster. And I tried to go through that with Jay Nixon, and it just didn't work. He said, I can see the numbers and all that. Dr. Laffer, makes sense, but I'm sitting here, I know I can meet my budget next year by doing what I'm doing. And, it was an abdication of what really should be done by a governor. A governor should be farsighted, looking over the immediate problems and trying to create prosperity for the grandchildren as well as the children, as well as the guys on the workforce now.
Missouri made history bringing down income taxes. But to become the best in the Midwest, where does Missouri go from here?
What I want to see here in Missouri is I want to see our economy grow. I want to see businesses thriving. I want to see wages going up. And by doing these tax cuts, it makes businesses in our state be more competitive when they're selling things across seas or selling things in other states or selling stuff here in Missouri. And so this will cause Missouri's economy to grow and wages to go up.
That's a conversation that we're going to continue. And obviously 2014 was kind of the appetizer. We view 2018 as the main course, but there's always a chance for a dessert later.
What does the economic future look like for Missouri?
Being a low tax state is something that businesses that are looking to move to a state from another place look at. It's also a reason why businesses will expand. We used to have a tax called the franchise tax that was a disincentive for companies to expand in Missouri. We got rid of that. When we looked at our tax rate, not being competitive with other states in the country, we lowered that. And so I think it's that kind of leadership on tax policy that matters for real people. It provides more opportunity at the heart of it. I'm a dad. And I want my kids to have every opportunity in Missouri. I don't want them to have to go anywhere else for a good education. I don't want them to have to go anywhere else for a career and those opportunities. And so what we're doing on the public policy front in Missouri can lead the way for more opportunity for the next generation.
So there was a lot of resistance to moving it down from 6%. How much further do you want to go?
I want to go down to zero. Anytime that we can replicate the taxation models in states that are growing much faster than Missouri, that's definitely where we want to go. Generally, what you want to do, what you tax, people do less of. So when you tax production like we do here in Missouri, we're going to get less production. So we want to move away from that model. And what we've seen around the country is that the more you get away from that, the more the state will grow and the more the folks want to come to the state of Missouri rather than being bribed here through corporate welfare and other means. What I've always said before is that measuring income as a way of measuring wealth is not a good measuring stick. Really wealth is defined as the ownership of assets. So when we tax income, what you're doing is you're actually slowing people's movement to the higher classes down. So you're punishing them for the more success that they have. What folks have said by voting with their feet because they're moving to places like Texas and moving to places like Tennessee is they don't want to be punished for more success. So if we don't want to lose those populations, we've got to get away from the income tax. And like I said, this is just the first step.
Why should Missourians be excited about lower taxes?
Well, I don't think it's very hard to get people excited about having more money in their paycheck at the end of the month. But they should be excited, I think, for broader reasons than that. I think they should be excited because it's one of the things that can contribute to Missouri having the kind of strong and vibrant and dynamic economy that we all want, where wages are able to grow, where there's a breadth of choices that people can choose for their career. And most importantly, I think they should be excited about it because it starts us on a path where our children and our grandchildren are going to have the kinds of economic opportunities that we want. And I think Missouri ought to be really excited about the path we're on, because if we'll continue to follow down this path, we're going to ensure that there is no place in the country where you will find better economic opportunity than right here in Missouri.
We have before us one of the greatest opportunities by working together to improve Missouri and to be the best in the United States of America. Because after all, we are the show me state.
How does having a new governor impact all of this?
Well, I got to know Mike Parson very well over the past couple of years. He was our lieutenant governor. He presided over the Senate, and I'm going to tell you, he's not only an ally on this bill, and I'm thrilled to have his support for it. I think he's going to be an ally that we need moving forward in that office. He understands the proper role of limited government and lower taxes. He's the right man for the job when it comes to lowering taxes for Missourians.
Governor Mike Parson signed the newest tax cuts bill into law shortly after he took office. The governor was honored to sign this bill and is looking forward to tackling the state's biggest economic opportunities. He also wants to put Missouri on the map as a national model and fiscal leader for tax reform. We spoke with Governor Parson at the Missouri State Fair in Sedalia.
So it's great to be a role model for that. But I don't know that it just stops there. I think this year we need to take a good look in the legislation and see, hey, how can we do things better? Are we going to have the opportunity to even cut taxes more to where we put more money in people's pocket? Because at the end of the game, that's what we should all be focused on. I am very optimistic. I think we got a great chance to move Missouri in a different direction and really just make it a better state. And, one of the things we're doing in economic development, we're saying best in the Midwest. I'm not so necessarily sold on that just being a slogan. I want Missouri to be the best. And I think if we work together with some of the things we're doing in the state to move us forward, we got a great opportunity to lead this nation from the state of Missouri. And that would be an awesome thing to be in the governor's state of Missouri when we take Missouri to a new level and where a lot of states are looking at us for leadership.
And other states are starting to take notice of Missouri's approach to tax cuts. Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed the largest income tax cut in the state's history in 2018, cutting down on their number of tax brackets from 9 to 4, and also cutting down the top rate from 8.98% to 6.5%. Governor Reynolds also went into this process with the mindset of letting people keep more of their money, but she also knew the importance of keeping pace with states like Missouri.
Bottom line, this is about helping Iowans keep more of their hard-earned money. It's about being more competitive. We got a lot of Republican governors across this country, and every one of them is looking at how they can make their state more competitive. So in that framework, we went to work and we wanted to see what we could do to make sure that we would be more competitive, and we were able to do that. The environment that we're creating with lower taxes and lower regulation, I hear over and over from our businesses and job creators that business has never been better. They're excited about the future and projecting significant growth. And that's what I'm hearing from all my other fellow governors across this country, especially Republicans. So, we'll reduce taxes, and we're watching to see what Missouri will do next.
Missouri's method of cutting taxes could be a national model for other states to follow. Governor Reynolds says Iowa is just getting started and is also looking to cut their business tax rate and build upon their historic income tax cut in 2018.
We're not done. I want you to know we're going to keep reducing here in Iowa too. And you know who wins when all of these Republican governors are working hard to reduce taxes and regulations? It's the people that we serve. And so it's a great competition to have, and I look forward to being a part of it. So I'm keeping an eye on you, Governor Parson. I know you're working hard to reduce taxes in the great state of Missouri.
So why is competition between the states so important to economic growth?
Because competition keeps a lid on state governments from behaving badly. Competition among the 50 states of the United States is absolutely the reason why this country does so well. And if you look at those states that do well, the 9 states with no income tax kick the living bejabbers out of the 9 states with the highest income taxes, and have done so for 50 years. And Parson has been fantastic in supporting. I mean, he's Missouri's Ronald Reagan. That's who he is. He's way cool, but he is really good. He's really understands the tax cuts. He's not a green eye shade budget bean counter. He understands that to have Missouri ever do well, it's got to grow. And you cannot tax a state into prosperity. That just doesn't happen in economics.
So Governor Parson wants Missouri to be the best state in the Midwest. So what is your message about lowering taxes in this economic climate?
Now is your time. If you can't do it now, when? Now is the time you really need to do it. And what you got to understand is, if you have 2 locations, A and B, if you raise taxes in B and you lower them in A, producers and manufacturers are going to move from, to, and that's exactly what Parson can do in Missouri right now. I'd get rid of your progressive income tax, I'd lower your income tax, I'd fix your sales tax system, and then I'd use the sales tax as my workhorse. And you got a lot of things to do, but why not now? Why not you? Why not here?
We could get it done.
You can get it done, and you've got the legislature, you've got the governor. Now is the time for Missouri to get into the competition and do the job right.
The bottom line is this: when Missouri is competing with other states for jobs, wage growth, and overall quality of life, it's you, Missourians, who win in the end. And with these new cuts on income tax and business tax, you can expect to see more money walking into the Show Me State. But the work is just getting started. Governor Parson hit the nail on the head. Best in the Midwest needs to be more than just a slogan. And if Missouri can continue down this path and become a national leader on tax policy, the slogan could potentially read, Missouri, Best in the Nation. Thank you for watching this special Missouri Best in the Midwest. And please support the effort to cut your taxes even more at MissouriBestMidwest.com.